big, stronger.
Alright,
Alright, you're live, you're good.
morning everybody, my name's Spark. Morning everybody, my name's Sparky, and this is Struggling, and we're gonna dive right in. I'm happy to start the day. I was looking at the schedule, and it looked like there was a lot of Sonic for today, so we're gonna treat this as the the lost and forgotten about Sonic game, I guess, and keep it speedy. So, like I said, I'm gonna dive right in because got you for an hour here, and it's gonna be a good time. So, I will begin when I hit start here. So here we go in 3, 2, 1, and go. So Struggling is a 2D physics-based platformer. That's the gist of it. It doesn't really get any more complicated than that. We're just gonna go from left to right, from left to right, from left to right, forever and ever. And maybe a little bit of from down to up or up to down, but it's pretty much beginning to end type thing. The thing that makes Struggling so unique is our character here, and this is the character Troy. He is an abomination. The story of Struggling is that there's this world of creatures and people, and there are these like quote unquote gods, I guess, called abominations. Troy was supposed to be the savior of the abominations, but as you can see, Troy ended up as a kind of sad sack of of flesh and wiggly arms. So the challenge and fun of Struggling is in the movement. So we are going to be fighting and struggling to use our wiggly arms to get us where we want to go. And most of the time they will cooperate, but even if you kind of know what you're doing here with Troy and Struggling, sometimes the arms will do weird things, and they won't cooperate quite like what you want them to. But that's okay, because we can just overcome that by throwing ourselves everywhere. So the name of the game in a Struggling speedrun, there are two things that we want to be aware of. The first is easy enough to do, hopefully, which is just not dying, which I say it's easy enough to do, but it's definitely easier said than done. It's one of those it's sort of a rage game the first time you play it for a little bit, but after you get a hang of the controls, everything kind of falls into place, and it's all hunky-dory. So the first thing we're gonna do is not die, at least as much as we can. The second thing we're gonna do is basically just try to keep our momentum everywhere. Another thing that's easier said than done. As you can see, our arms kind of get in the way a lot, and so they stop us from rolling or flying or doing whatever we need to do. And just the general movement of our character Troy here with the arms will make it rather difficult to keep momentum going. But we're basically just going to try to keep momentum the whole time, and that'll keep us moving in a forward direction without having to do any weird stopping or anything. So the basic controls of Struggling, just to kind of throw that in here while we're still in this first tutorial stage. As I said, we have our two kind of wiggly arms here, and the game is played with a controller. I have played it once with keyboard and mouse, and it was a nightmare. But the game is played with a controller, and each of the sticks on the controller controls one of the two arms of our character Troy. So when you are not grabbing onto a wall or anything, the stick will simply move Troy's arm in that direction. Sometimes arms get stuck like that. And so when I'm moving like this, I'm just moving the hands of the arm in the direction that I'm moving the stick. But once you grab onto a wall or any object, mostly walls, then all of a sudden the stick controls where Troy's head goes. So you have to find the balance of being able to move the arm where you want and not accidentally moving the head when you need to move the arm, because that creates moments where you accidentally move into something you don't want to and you die. So that's the basic controls of the game. Struggling is split into 4 kind of larger, I call them the main sections of the game. We are obviously in the first one here. It's always good to start with the first section. This is the lab or the laboratory. This is more or less the tutorial stage. It teaches you, basic movements, what to look out for, what will kill you, what kind of obstacles you might encounter in the future. Obviously, we will encounter some new ones later on, but for the most part, the lab covers just about everything we could need to know about what's coming later. This is the shortest section. It's the fastest section, as you can imagine, the tutorial level. And if we complete this this lab section in under about 7 minutes, I will be a very, very happy camper. That's the goal for today is to beat the lab in about 7 minutes or so. I attempted to do a nice fun trick there and go on the ceiling for this whole section. It doesn't really save all that much time, but it looks a heck of a lot cooler than just doing the lab the intended way. You are able to avoid all those spikies on the ceiling by the lights and whatnot, but it is rather challenging, and so it's mostly just for flair, but also for the fun. In addition to being a platformer, this game has some moments like we are about to encounter right here that I like to think of not really as like a puzzle game, because it's not really a puzzle right here. It's just a different, kind of thing that's going on in the game. Hope that stays there and doesn't fall. And so the lab introduces this part right here, which is kind of like we have to get those chunks of metal out of the way, and then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to be normal and just put them in those acid pits that you see below us, and then like climb over the chunks. But instead, what we do is we just get them out of the way enough where we can drop down here and just throw ourselves with that big old magnet. So that was the end of the laboratory. Like I said, mostly just like a tutorial level with little extra fun stuff going on. That again shows us kind of what goes on in this game. So now we've made our way to the cave, which begins, you can see right there, with the mines of mistakes. Each larger section is broken up into smaller sections. I won't be pointing them out because I always forget that the smaller sections names exist, but you'll see them pop up in the top right every now and again. I'm mostly focusing on the bigger sections and getting through everything, but you'll see how bigger sections, as we get into the smaller sections of the bigger sections, kind of new stuff is introduced to us. So we're here in the lab. We get introduced to the acid, which will be present. I just passed one of those like yellow signs, like a caution sign. Those will be present throughout the rest of the game. And so each section does kind of introduce its own new thing. So there's another one of those yellow signs. We'll use them later on in the game. You can use them now, but for our purposes, we'll just skip right over it because they're not necessarily needed in this point in time. But there is acid everywhere, and we will definitely be avoiding it. You can see Troy jiggling there. The fun thing about this game and what makes it interesting for me, and why I like running this game, is that it's never the same twice. Oh jeez, oh, that's not good at all. It's never the same twice, so sometimes you will do something the same way you've always done it, and you will of course die like I just did. So now I have to make up for a little bit of lost time. Because it's physics based, and the controls are rather wacky. It's some unexpected things just tend to happen every now and again, like that. So that one being a less than ideal one. Usually a death is a-okay, because in later sections I will grab more checkpoints, and now that I've died in one spot, I will grab this checkpoint in case that happens again. So forgive me for dying right there, but it happens. I'd like to say, you know, say marathon RNG, but it wasn't RNG. It was just me kind of being foolish for a little bit. But yeah, like I said, the name of the game is not dying, and so dying sets you back quite a little bit, as you can see. We're back where we were, but we're gonna play it a little bit safe this time and not try to go through. But yeah, what makes this game interesting is the kind of unexpected nature of it. No matter what you do, you will never have the same exact result, and it's fun to kind of overcome those challenges that you get yourself in. And you can see every now and again, you'll notice what sometimes happens is that Troy's arms will get like either stuck in walls or they'll fold up on themselves, and you have to kind of plan, not really plan for it, but you have to be ready to work with that kind of problem when it arises. And so the mechanic that we have available to us is it's kind of like an arm reset. You'll see the arm regrows if it dies on its own, but if our arm gets like in a weird position where the game doesn't detect that it is like it should be dead, the arm should be dead, we have to kind of like kill the arm ourselves, and we can do that. There's a mechanic that lets us just kind of like regenerate the arm very quickly, and you can see the blue arm there is kind of folded up on itself. If that was the case when we're going normally, then we would definitely want to reset that arm because it's basically useless in that case. So we are now to our first, what I like to call a boss. It seems like a boss, but there aren't really bosses necessarily in the game. But this is our first boss, and you can see that we are getting a totally different way to play the game. Rather than Troy's body being walked around on the arms, we kind of get this like, I like to call it like a bastardized like game of pinball, where we have arms coming out of walls and such, and our goal is to destroy all of those like black and green glowing like growths or pus balls to defeat this boss Amadeus here. And Amadeus is going to be singing us a really fantastic song the whole time while we're doing it, so thanks Amadeus. And this part is pretty challenging because the arms, again, no matter what you do, you do the same thing 100 times in a row in this game, it won't necessarily do exactly what you want it to. So throwing things exactly where you want doesn't always work, as is evident by my inability to aim and get right where I want to. We'll just go for a different one for now and come back to that one. This section is there's really nothing RNG based in this game. This section is the one that's most subject to, I guess, RNG but randomness. But just like the way that Troy's head can bounce off of various eyeballs is or get shot out like that randomly very quickly sometimes is or miss. So like it's stuff like that, the little things where you kind of have to just get lucky that things get shot out the right way. There we go. And when they don't happen, it just takes longer than it should, or than it normally would. We're still on a pretty good pace considering that one not so great death, and then that Amadeus fight wasn't necessarily the best either, because of some weird bounces and launches. But the cool thing that we do get now after beating Amadeus is our first Abomination God Blessing, or what I just like to kind of call a superpower. And so what we get is we get the ability to detach our arms, and it's called remote arms. Obviously, you can see that there. We get the ability to detach our arms and kind of move them around wherever we want to, and we are going to use this power for the entire rest of the game. I mean, this is going to be used for everything from pressing switches to pulling levers to making ourselves what's called an arm rope that you'll see in 2 seconds here. Here's our arm rope. So we're gonna be like using it to again press buttons, pull switches, and also like use our arms as a vine to throw ourselves where we need to go. You'll see that there are these like weird red mouths everywhere, and we can attach our arms to those red mouths, and yeah, we we use them to do various tasks like that to break the rocks below us and whatnot. But it's pretty straightforward. The whole game itself is almost doesn't really need commentary. You all can kind of see what's going on, but there are some fun things that are good to explain as we're going. So like here, what I was saying before with the like pushing buttons and whatnot. So we're gonna snake our arms, which is fun too. That you can actually control the arms like as they're detached to push those buttons, which allows us to push another button, which to the right blows up an obstruction that we otherwise could not get through. That is one obstruction that I have tried to get through without the button explosion, without the explosives, but it just does not work. That's when I haven't skipped, and I mentioned that because there are things later on that we have found skips for, which will be very fun. I should mention, while I'm thinking of it now, that this game is more or less intended to be a co-op game, actually. Obviously, I'm playing it on my own. I'm playing it one player. But the game is a co-op game where each person, they control one of the arms of Troy, which you could imagine is rather frustrating and can take a little bit to coordinate, which it absolutely does. I've played this co-op with 2 people, and each time it was very, very tough to get where you wanted to go, because one person would have the arm going one way, the other person would have the arm going the other way, and like I said in the beginning, when you grab onto the balls, and all of a sudden that arm controls the head, you'll start pulling the head in the other direction, and it's just a disaster. But I think that was absolutely the point of the game, and it makes it pretty fun to play. Obviously, it is a little bit faster one player, so that's why we do the one player speed runs. But if you're feeling bold and spicy, of course there are co-op speed runs on our speedrun.com page. So feel free to grab a friend and I guess torture yourselves with trying to even beat struggling together. Here's another one of those like puzzly things where we get this weird like crane that we have to go pick up Troy's head for, and attach the arms and attach them to the mouth things, and you're introduced to bouncy sticks here as well. We just get some new stuff every now and again, and it's yeah, it's a good time. One thing I'm gonna do here is what I like to call the Rat King skip. You'll notice right above me is a pipe right there. If you go in that pipe, you will get to the Rat King. But if you get too close to the pipe, you get sucked in. We just jump right around it so we can grab onto the ceiling, and we don't have to mess with the gears that were below us, because gears are scary and can easily kill us. So we skip over the Rat King by tossing ourselves in such a way that we don't get sucked into the pipe. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Good thing we grabbed the checkpoint. Like I said, this game is, no matter what you do, there's always something unexpected. Okay. I am gonna do a fun skip right here. I don't really have a name for it. I think I just called it rock skip at one point because of rock. But the intended strategy is to throw a rock down there. There were gears to the right. you break the gears with the rock, because that's one thing you can do is break gears with rocks. So we broke gears with a rock, and I hope the rock is over there. Yes, we got the perfect throw on the rock, actually. So we broke those gears with the rock so we could get over here. And normally what you're supposed to do is eventually this button becomes active, and the way you activate that button that we just went over is by below us there are two pressure plates, and you're supposed to do kind of what we did earlier with the separate arms. You push both pressure plates, and then it activates that button, and then that button up top gets us a rock to break those two gears that we just broke. But of course, if we just bring a rock over, we can break those gears without ever turning them on, because activating those pressure plates also turns the gears on. They start spinning. It's a good time. It's a party. So we just bring an extra rock from earlier and break the gear before we're able to. So that saves about 45 seconds or so if you do it the right way and don't mess up. We probably actually saved a little bit more time because we got a good throw on that first rock I mentioned. Sometimes the rock can get stuck at the bottom of the ramp leading up to that section, which then you have to navigate up the ramp while holding onto a rock, which is very tough because you can't grab onto walls or anything with that hand once you're holding an object. So there we go. Okay. We are coming up pretty close here to the end of the cave section. The end of the cave section is kind of like I guess you could call it a chase scene. But you'll see the Rat King. We'll get introduced to the Rat King. Of course, he'll be wearing his crown because we didn't go to him and steal it. I'm wearing a miner's cap, as you can see. We got it earlier. This game, the kind of like collectibles of this game are hats. The Rat King's crown is one of the hats that you can collect. So we're going to see the Rat King with his crown because we didn't go in and steal it. That would have wasted time. We want to go fast. But it's a chase scene. We're not actually getting chased by the Rat King. We're just going to get chased by acid. But this is one of the most stressful parts for me because it is the mechanic of before with the Amadeus, with the kind of like pinball-y type of movement where arms are going to come out of walls, and we're going to have to throw Troy's head, and if you don't grab Troy's head in just the right way, it makes it very, very hard to throw his head how you want it. So we're gonna hope and pray that we get some good grabs and don't get any misthrows, and we don't die from any acid. So there's gonna be acid behind us coming for this whole scene. Hopefully we never see it. Hopefully we can just go fast enough where we're not gonna see that acid. That's what's happening right now, hence the intense music too. So far so good. So far so good. What usually happens here, yeah, the wrist is a little bit weird, so we're gonna have to readjust. And we made it. Okay, good. That was actually a very fast Rat King escape section. So, yay! Everybody can cheer in the chat for a good Rat King escape. We made it. We did it, and that's the end of the cave. Like I said, that's the end of the cave section, and we are moving on to the third out of 4 sections. The third section is the canyon section. The canyon section is the most interesting section. It gives us really unique obstacles. Not only obstacles we've already run into, like gears and such, but we're going to get the introduction of geysers and those yellow signs that I was talking about earlier. We're going to get those up the wazoo. We are going to get hundreds of those everywhere. And so navigating those obstacles in this section is going to be the most fun part and also the hardest part. Not only that, but the canyon section, this section also has one of the most interesting skips we're going to get. It is called Agamemnus skip, and of course when we get there I'll explain kind of what's going on, but upon discovery of that skip, we were able to shave off about 4 minutes with just that one skip. I was able to get us the first sub-hour run, and it basically changed the game. Then from there on, we found other skips and whatnot. When we get there, you might think it's a glitch. I would probably agree with you. You'll notice that the category is, of course, glitchless. You might say, hey, Sparky, that Agamemnus skip looks a little suspect. It's kind of glitchy, right? Well, the community, the speedrun community doesn't think so, and then the devs just call it, oh, it's an oversight. So they don't call it a glitch either. It seems like a glitch to me, but I can see why nobody wants to call it a glitch, because it's not super glitchy, but you know, it feels like one. That's really the only reason I call it a glitch. But not a glitch. Not a glitch at all. So says the people. So here's some more of those red mouths, right? Here's those geysers I was talking about. We already encountered one. The geysers just like launch us everywhere we want to go. And sometimes they do that really nicely and predictably, and most of the time they don't. And then here's more of those yellow signs. If you don't grab the yellow signs in just the right way, you can actually spin too fast and rip your arms. Or you just like don't get the momentum that you need, or you're going too slow and you don't actually get launched where you need to be or want to be. So what I did right there was I'm just skipping a teeny tiny cutscene there. I didn't skip the cutscene itself, but the cutscene was the hiker falling. If we don't grab onto that top, we would have had to wait for the hiker to come back up before. And see, this geyser's giving me trouble. You don't get launched by the geyser the right way. We would have had to wait for that hiker to come all the way back up before we could proceed, which wouldn't have taken a very long time, but you know, anything longer than like 0 seconds is too slow for us. So now we get to do really high risk maneuver. We're going to try to make our way across these yellow signs, again without dying, and if we get the grabs that we want on the signs, this is no big deal. But of course, if we don't, which happens in struggling, as it's happening right now, it makes it a little bit harder. You can see that the signs aren't centered on a hinge. They're kind of rotating around one corner. So if you don't grab the opposite corner, the rotation is really messed up. Which is, like I was saying earlier, you won't get the right momentum that you need. You'll either go way too fast or not fast enough. To our top right there, you'll see a little bit of cactuses. That, before somebody discovered that we could just progress the game through something that's actually an intended part of the game, that used to be the most prone to deaths part. Very easy to die, but what we're going to do is we're just going to go to, I was talking earlier about the hats being collectibles. We're going to go to a place where there is a hat that we can collect. We're not going to collect the hat, but we are, you'll see the hat to the left over there. Yeah, you'll see the skull hat there to the left, but we are just going to use that to launch right over that whole cactus section that I was saying is very easy to die in. Much faster, much easier, much less in danger of dying, which is always good. I said at the beginning, name of the game is not dying and momentum. So we've got both of those things so far. The bad thing is we have to rely on geysers through a lot of this section, and sometimes geysers like to do that and launch you just a bit too far, or just a bit not far enough, and of course it. So we're gonna hope that we get a good geyser on this one. Again, even if you set up in what seems like the exact same way that you have in the past. You don't always get the same results. Oh, okay. The good thing is, we're coming up to probably my favorite. I will call a lot of things my favorite section, but this is definitely one of my favorite sections. If you remember all those Flash games from when you were a kid, and those like motorcycle ones where you have to, you know, just drive a motorcycle over various. Ooh, our arm is stuck in a really weird way. Over various obstacles, and basically just control the tilt. That's what we're going to be doing here. We're just going to be doing that using an abomination with strange arms. We're going to get our arm out of the floor. So we are going to ride this dirt bike to the end of this plane crash, and we're going to do that fast enough where that airplane doesn't catch up to us and doesn't kill us. We're also going to try to not tip over and do any front flips that we don't want to do. This section isn't too bad, and it has great music to boot, so, you know, most times we can get through it without dying, no problem, but again, the unexpected can happen in this game, and occasionally you'll go off a ramp and all of a sudden just spin in circles in ways that you don't want, and can't control yourself and come back. We got through it without any deaths, which is nice. Now we get to listen to the underwater music for a few short seconds. Okay, enough of the underwater music. Here is one geyser that I have beef with forever. If we get a good launch on this geyser, I will be very happy. And if we don't, then we will be struggling through. A good launch. Decent launch. The ideal launch is to end up all the way up here on the first launch. The worst launch is to end up all the way at the bottom, because then you have to climb while that geyser shooting down is fighting your momentum. And it's impossible to get around that geyser when it's on, so you just have to wait for it. And you can only go so fast to gain so much upwards rounds before the geyser comes back. So we got a pretty decent launch where we only needed to wait for the geyser once. If you get the worst launch, you kind of have to wait for it like at least 2 or 3 times. And obviously you can imagine how long that takes. So I'm happy with that geyser launch, actually. I'm surprised at how good it was based on how I was kind of in that. I was oriented in the geyser. Now we get to do some fun zip lines. And hopefully we can actually not miss the zip lines. Because they can, if you go too fast on the zip lines, sometimes arms will just detach like that. And if you're not holding on with both arms and not prepared for it, you'll just go flying and you'll just die. It's not a good time. Okay, we are coming up to before what I was talking about, the big Agamemnon skip. It is the infamous Agamemnon skip. It is often talked about in the Discord. It's brought back up for various reasons, mostly just because the video that I took, somebody made a GIF of it, and it's a pretty entertaining GIF, or GIF, if you will. Some people always make fun of the way I say GIF, which I'm okay with. You are allowed to do that. But we are coming up to Agamemnon skip. If I can get through these cacti, there we go. So one thing that the developers apparently really wanted to add in this already weird and interesting game was a dating simulator. And they did that, of course. But we are going to skip right over it because it is 4 minutes. In a speedrun, it's 4 minutes of just button mashing and just like basically getting through text boxes as fast as we can. Normally you'd hit this hand, and there's a good old encounter plane there, and you start the dating sim. Luckily for us, we can hold on to a invisible wall right behind the encounter plane, so we have to make sure we avoid the encounter plane, and we can climb right up it, and if we avoid the encounter plane, we skip right over the dating simulator. So that's Agamemnon skip. Looks very easy. In practice, it is quite tough. But what it does is, so one consequence of doing that Agamemnon skip, well, there's two consequences. The first is, obviously, you can hear that this intense music is just going forever and ever in the background, and that's going to go through to the end of the canyon section, and there's really, the only way to get rid of the music is to go back to the main menu and then reload the game, which obviously we're not going to do because that would waste time. But the other thing that Agamemnon skip does is, like the remote arms power, the Abomination God Blessing, we should receive, after completing the dating simulator, what we should receive is the power to slow down time, and then you can use that time alteration slowdown power to grab onto that spear rather easily. You'll also see these arrows coming from the right. You can slow down time and grab the arrows out of the air and get them out of the way. So this whole section is intended to be beaten using the time alteration power. So while the Agamemnon skip does save us 4 minutes, it also makes a lot of what comes after it a lot harder, because we don't have power that we should, and so we have to complete things in real time without making them easier on ourselves, which after you get it 50 or 60 times isn't too bad, but certainly the first time I found the skip and was very excited about it, and then all of a sudden realized that I have to beat the rest of the game without time alteration. It was a bit of a challenge. Most of the things is just like avoiding them like this, but there are the occasional parts where time alteration would absolutely be very, very helpful. So one thing we're doing right here is, you can see normally we would want to grab the spears and ride the spears up, but we can just get all the way to the button over there on the right, open up the top, and swing ourselves around. This part right here is definitely one part that is nicer in slow-mo. We lost our arms. Because you are able to actually slow yourself down and slow these spears down. This first one, there's two instances of this. We're gonna get this same type of thing right after we do this one. So we grab onto the one shooting up, then we have to grab onto the horizontal one, and that first one is the hard one because the vertical spear just keeps shooting. So if you don't get the horizontal spear, you mostly just end up dying from the vertical one again because it just keeps shooting up. And you can see how many times this is taking because we aren't able to slow down, so we have to catch the horizontal one. The horizontal one is usually the one that gives the trouble. So for whatever reason, when you let go of a spear, the game, for just a little bit, still thinks you're like holding on to something and it won't let you grab again. This part is easy as long as we can time and then grab onto the spear. Just fly right past everything. Whew. All right, first try. Thank goodness. There is one part of this ending canyon. We're still technically in the canyon right now. Canyon section. There is one part of the ending of this canyon section that is very, very, very hard without time alteration. It's coming up here, and I will explain why it is hard and how we're able to do it without time alteration. So like I said, I discovered the Agamemnon skip, and then was stressing about how I would be how we would be able to beat, oh dear, the rest of it without time alteration. So we have this spear that's coming at us from the right. Normally, it'd be very easy to pass this section. We would simply use time alteration and grab that arrow and just get it right out of the way. We'd grab it out of the way and throw it out of the way. But now we have to grab our arms together in a very close spot and throw ourselves over the arrow. And not only that, but what we also have to do when that happens, if we want to do it in a really nice, fast way, is we have to regenerate our arms on our own. If we just let the arrow kill our arms, it actually takes longer for the arm to regenerate that way, and it takes just enough time to make planning for the next arrow very, very difficult, as you saw it happen one time. Oh, okay, good. Now we just have to wait for the next one so it doesn't come too fast and kill us. That's that section is a exercise in not only going fast, but timing everything just right. And that's one of the parts where when I was talking way at the beginning about how sometimes the game can be a little bit unpredictable and unexpected. That's part of it. No matter what you do, the arms might not do what you want them to do, how you want them to do it. And so you kind of feel the wrath of that just a little bit. But we made it through. Took a few tries. That's okay. But the good thing is we are about to end the canyon section. The end of the canyon section is this long fall that looks a lot tougher than it is. So during this long fall, we're gonna get a lot of like arrows and spike balls and other things that we obviously need to avoid so we don't die. You'll notice that all I need to do to get through this section, so like that spike ball from the left is coming at us, and so now you can see how the time alteration works. Anytime an obstacle is coming, it's gonna start going slow-mo. You cannot get past this section of the game without the slow-mo, so the game just automatically activates it. Most of these obstacles will just fly right over us if we sit in this exact spot right here. So spike balls will fly over us, arrows will go over us. There are a few arrows that we're going to need to grab, but you can see how the first time you play this game, how frantic you'd be going from left to right, trying to quickly avoid various things. If we just sit here right on this section of the platform, we are safe from most things. Yep, that one. Two. So it kind of makes this section a lot less chaotic, a lot easier, and a lot more consistent. So we're not worrying about potentially dying during this section and having to go back to the beginning, because this falling section, you can't go any faster than it does go, and it's about a little over 2 minutes of just falling and not dying. And so if you die at any point, obviously you have to kind of reset and you lose about 2 minutes or so. Okay, and when we get to the end of this, our platform is going to land on some mushrooms. The mushrooms are going to shoot out a bunch of spores, and that's kind of the story of the last section, which is called Buzz. And so it's kind of agreed upon that this plume of spores basically makes Troy hallucinate, and his hallucinations are this final Buzz section. So this Buzz section is made up of a bunch of really tiny sections. Each section is less than 3 minutes or so. I mentioned before that each larger section is split up into small sections. The names are in the top right. This is the same way. The only difference being that each of the smaller sections is very, very obvious when it happens. So we're going to be going basically through each section, and at the end of each section there's going to be a door. That door is going to send us to the next small section. You'll see that. There are a few ways we can get through certain parts of these sections a little bit faster. Some of them are a bit risky, like what I'm doing now.
Wow.
Because the ending of Canyon forced us to use the time alteration, the slow-mo power, we actually now have that available to us. So even though we never technically collected it, the game thinks that because we used it at the end of the other section that we have it, or it just thinks that because we made it to the buzz section that we have it. So we are going to use it in 2 spots. Those 2 spots are really just to save ourselves from dying. I suppose technically we probably could do each of those spots without time alteration, but because we have it, why not use it, right? So we're going to use the time alteration power twice in this buzz section. Those 2 times are going to be in this mushroom section. So this first small section is called mushrooms. I can't imagine why they called it mushrooms. Doesn't make sense to me. They did, right? So we're going to use the time alteration here just to make it easier for us to grab onto a spear that we are going to want to use. Again, we probably could grab onto the spear without it, but just because we're like floating in space, it makes it a lot easier to control, because not only does this time alteration slow everything down, but it also makes it a lot easier to control Troy's body. You have a lot more control over it, and you're able to navigate where you want to go much easier. And even though everything around you is slowing down, you aren't really moving slower. So it's nice to use time alteration for stuff like that. We used it again right at the very end just to avoid some of those arrows. Here is the fastest section. We're going so fast that we hit that like cookie looking thing. You can see the more or less intended path that you're supposed to take for this basketball section, but if you go at just the right angle, you can just shoot straight up through everything and do the whole thing in just a short 45 seconds or so. So there's our good literal space jam. And now we're gonna get our Spider-Man section, your friendly neighborhood flesh monster. It's the same thing that we've been doing, just grabbing onto walls. It's just in this case, pretty much everything is grabbable. So instead of like grabbing onto the sides of surfaces, we are grabbing onto a whole wall. We're gonna be using a lot of the arm rope, just like our good Spider-Man would. So, and you'll notice there are a lot of ducks in this section. Keep those in mind. Don't forget about the ducks. We are going to encounter the biggest duck of them all by the end of the game. I mean that quite literally. So ducks are not our friend, of course. I don't really know why. I don't really know why ducks are made out to be the enemy. They are. Okay. You'll notice I'm traveling upside down through the walls too. If you travel upside down, it's a lot faster, your arms, because you can kind of see how the arms of Troy's body are kind of coming out of the head at sort of like an angle. They aren't really they aren't coming out from the sides of the head. They're coming out kind of on the bottom corner of the head. And so because we're upside down, the arms are already in that direction. This is one section that I absolutely love, both casually and speedrunning. The reason I love it casually is because we get the creativity and the cleverness of the writing of the developers of the game. But we're gonna skip all of that. So normally you'd get on that box and give this whole like meta speech that is full of humor and whatnot. But we can't, without doing what I'm doing right now, you can't actually skip the speech. Once you start the speech, it just goes. But what we can do is we can just sneak. We can pull ourselves through. We can sneak right around this door. Squeeze it just the right angle. And by doing that, let's see. Come on. There we go. Oh, jeez. Oh, no.
What is love?
Okay.
Pain, ouch, hurt, shut up, Hector, and wow.
Okay, we missed the trigger. So we're gonna have to redo that again. That never happens on purpose, or that never happens on accident. I usually do that on purpose. I want to show some things off so you can see that this section is full of the rest of the level as well. Good news is we're still on a good pace. We'll still make our time. Don't worry, even though it seems like I've died more than I should have, which is absolutely true. We'll still finish this this game in under an hour, I promise. So what we're gonna do is actually succeed this time. The hard part about this, which is why it's kind of giving me some trouble, is that Troy's head, along with his arms being like coming out of like the bottom of him, is that the shape of his hitbox is a little bit oblong. Not actually a square. It's a rectangle, and it's a tall rectangle. So if you go from like the top of his head to the bottom of his head, it's actually like a thin rectangle that's standing up like that. So we have to go through that gap above the door sideways, otherwise the head is too tall. So that's why it's a little bit weird, because you have to scrunch the arms so they don't get in the way of that rectangle as it's pulling through. Jeez. Okay. I mentioned before how there's a lot of favorite sections for me. This is another one of my favorite sections, this pre-alpha section. You get like this weird like 0G feel through the whole thing. And again, it's not really a puzzle platformer, but this part of it sort of feels like it is. So we have to use our arms to like pull down certain paths and make sure we can get where we need to go. That kind of stuff. And it is kind of a puzzle because you have to decide what exactly you're supposed to do in order to progress. So what we're doing here is we're going to skip a lot of this section that's to the right. You'll see there's a checkpoint to the right. Just beyond that checkpoint, there is what should be the next section. But that section is kind of an auto-scroller. You hop onto this like paperclip, and you basically just sit on that paperclip not dying, and so it takes a very set amount of time. So what we do instead is we grab that ruler from that a little earlier in this section. We just go above the stage and skip over that, and the reason we do that is because it's a lot faster. Because we can throw ourselves as fast as we want to go, and we don't have to wait for any auto-scrolling. Taking a little bit of caution, because you can die right there sometimes. What you're supposed to do here, I imagine, is pull up all of these pencils and create a bridge for yourself, but you just need one of them. Arm went all wonky. We just need one of them, and we can throw ourselves up with one pencil. And then, of course, what you're supposed to do here is make a tall tower and then use this pencil as a bridge. But we are lucky enough where if we set it up just like that, we have just enough space to do this slow because this is a big section. A little bit of pressure. Can die. We have just enough space to grab onto just under the door, and we can get in the door and call it a day. So, remember those ducks I was talking about? How we're eventually going to encounter the biggest duck of them all, the one that one duck to them all. We are at that section. Anatidiaphobia. Of course, fear of ducks, right? So this is the second to last section of the game. And what this section is basically a two-dimensional shadow of the Colossus fight. We're going to be climbing onto this gigantic duck, and we are going to be pushing spears into him to defeat him. So he's kind of like the final big boss. The developers even call this section the Shadow of the Duck Colossus. So they definitely took some inspiration from the Shadow of the Colossus games. And this section can go very well and usually does, but if the duck does anything funny, really mess your day up. You'll notice that my arms are getting all wonky, and that's because the physics of this section is, well, it's a little bit messed up. Because there's a lot of movement going on with the duck and a lot of different, you know, hitboxes and collision and whatnot. The physics gets real weird in this section, so we have to just do our best to not be too affected by it. And you can, yeah, like I said, you can see how it kind of makes movement a little jank. Every time we push in a spear, we're gonna get ducks flying at us, trying to kill us. The good thing is, because there's only 3 spears, only 2 of those spears are really gonna matter, because the 3rd spear is the end. We cannot die from getting eaten by the duck, which is nice. So you just kind of hang out in the mouth for a little bit. Way down. There we go. There's the 2nd spear. And I'm gonna wait for just a little bit because of the way the ducks attack you. They shoot and they launch at you. They go for where your head was when they launched. So if I wait just a little bit, I can just pull out of the way very quickly, not have to worry about by the. Come on. Wasn't grabbing. Not getting hit by the duck. So that's why I waited just a bit. Big duck does this sometimes. Yep. I was gonna say. So occasionally the duck will like jump up like that, and when he does that, you saw there that again the physics is weird, so I tore my arms and basically forced me to fall, and now I gotta take a slightly different path, which not the end of the world, it just takes a little bit more time. But he's bringing more ducks on the way, so we're just gonna wait here behind the spear. Don't hit us. And we'll push in this last spear. This is not quite the end of the game, but it is getting very close. So that's the duck fight. That's the metaphorical duck. And he's gonna eat us, and we're gonna see the true guy thing that's like been controlling it, quote unquote, all the whole time. And time is gonna end when we get this weird little dude Morpheus. There's an acid pit to the right that we're gonna throw him in. So here's our good friend Morpheus, the feeble puppeteer. So he's kind of been controlling everything. He's the brain of the duck. Normally what you're supposed to do is you just pull him down, and then he gets those like weird red mouths that you can attach your arms to. You attach your arms to him and basically control him like Troy. That's not ideal because the way that his head is shaped, you can see he's got that like tail on the bottom. It makes it really hard to actually move him in a way that is beneficial for us. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna pull him down just enough where we have only a few of those, I guess, intestines attached to him.
Hurt.
We're gonna break those final ones, and then we're just gonna toss him in. And that's gonna be the end of the game. Oh, he wants to cooperate. Fantastic. There we go. Oh. Okay, Morpheus. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna throw him in, and so you can see he spouted those mouths. There we go. So, like I said, even with all those unfortunate deaths and unexpected things happening, we still barely made our estimate, which is good. So that's struggling. There's a lot of weird, fun stuff in it. I highly suggest and recommend this game to everybody. It's very fun casually. Like I said, it's a fun co-op game, and while frustrating, it is definitely a fun and interesting experience. So that's all I've got for you on struggling, and I'm SparkMcCalc1. You can find me there everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. So just personal shout out there. And shout out to the whole struggling community, the devs, the other runners, and everything. We have a good time, we joke around a lot, and it's as weird and interesting as this game was. So thank you, Zax, for having me out, and yeah, that's what I've got for you. You're welcome to hang out and listen to the music. Otherwise, that's it. That's struggling, and hope y'all enjoyed starting your day with this very weird and interesting game.
Big Chongus!